Do you know what your town or county did with federal relief aid after COVID? Well, it's coming to an end and you should know. I'm Charles Blaine, and this is Texas Tomorrow. During the pandemic, local governments were flush with federal relief money. Much of it came in because they were expected to lose revenue from sales taxes and property taxes, and the federal government had a plan to make them whole. Well, in the end, some did lose revenue and others didn't. They actually made more, but they all got the cash nonetheless. And in the years since, we've seen them do everything under the sun with this quote unquote free money, like fill in budget gaps or cover the cost of waiving business registration fees. Some hired more law enforcement officers while others tried new crime fighting methods. Some created new programs like Harris County's Guaranteed Basic Income Program or provided rental assistance. El Paso started a wastewater project, and Coppell did a home rehabilitation program. What they spend it on is honestly limitless, not just in Texas, but nationwide. And that's part of the problem. There was no easy or unified way of tracking spending. You'd have to watch each local government meeting for hours or hope that local budgets had enough detail for you to pick them apart and determine where this money went, which made the programs open for corruption in the form of contracts to friends, unnecessary services, or double billing. A recent Texas Senate hearing explored this and a lot more, and the hearing last month was called by State Senator Paul Betancourt and looked at how local governments spent this money and how the state could do better in the future to both monitor the funding and restrict it to make sure they weren't spending it on things that would later be deemed illegal. Outside of the legality, the other big problem is that many local governments created new programs using this funding, and they're now looking for ways to continue these programs on the back of local taxpayers. Harris County, for instance, is looking at an 8 to 10% property tax increase this year. And while a small portion can be attributed to the unanticipated expense of our recent hurricane and windstorm, most of it is because they chose to use the money to expand new programs and now have to pay for them. Austin said they're facing a budget deficit of $260 million when their federal relief aid runs out. December is when local governments are obligated to commit their last bit of federal relief aid, or else they'll be forced to return it next year. So watch your local government closely in these next few months, because as some move forward on their fiscal year 2025 budgets, they'll be using one-time funds to cover those gaps, to pad the budgets and carry them through the year. Others might try to obligate them to novel projects. And that's why you have to make sure that they're not just spending for the sake of spending. And more importantly, that they're spending for long-term sustainability. But understand this. If your local government is creating new programs or closing budget gaps with one-time relief aid, it might provide short-term relief. But at the end of the day, next year and in 2026, when they don't have that funding anymore, those expenses will likely still remain, and you'll be the ones paying for them. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Texas Tomorrow. Please let us know if there's something going on in your neighborhood that you'd like us to talk about, because we'd love to cover it. Please like, share, and comment with your friends.